Hello, Riderflex Nation. Steve Urban here again from recruiting and consulting firm Riderflex. We provide career advice and job interviewing tips on this podcast. And if you enjoy the show, please remember to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes. And on today's Riderflex podcast, we have former NFL quarterback Jake Plummer, who's also the co-founder of ReadyList Sports. It's an interactive web-based playbook that leverages multi-learning styles and integrated testing. Jake, thanks so much for being on the Riderflex podcast today.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here.
You bet. Everybody knows, of course, who you are, but just for the listener's sake, if you don't mind, maybe kind of a quick personal update. Yeah,
for sure. It's definitely an adjustment to retire from playing in the NFL and having all of your days accounted for and schedule set and, what to expect week in and week out to retire and move into that sort of life takes a little bit of an adjustment. So I've been through that long enough. I've been retired long enough to have kind of figured out what's next and where I'm going and, always open for new possibilities or new experiences. And, alongside of those exciting things to get involved in, I'm a father of 3 young children, so 9, 6, and 3 years old.
Wow.
So, my hands are full, with me and the wife and living, like you said, in Colorado now, not Idaho anymore, but living in Colorado and spending summers up in Idaho on the lake. Got a pretty darn good life going and living pretty well and really open and eager to get involved in whatever's next. And at the current moment, that is trying to build this playbook tool and being a tech entrepreneur with no business degree or tech background, but
right.
Just the ability to take a really much needed product, kind of be the quarterback, for lack of better words, behind, helping drive this thing and get the word out and get some doors open and get eyeballs on our product so that we can show people there is a better way to teach the game of football, a better way to learn it, and hopefully go out and play faster and safer and enjoy it. So that's kind of what I'm up to right now, just navigating those waters. And other than that, living the good life here in Colorado.
So ReadyList Sports, how did it start? I know your co-founder, Chad Freehoff, and yourself started the business, I believe. Can you just walk us through, how'd that happen? Are you guys, you're at happy hour, you're chatting over a beer, and you guys are saying, boy, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better playbook system. How'd that happen?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something that at the time of my life, about 5 years ago, I was coming out of my second surgery on a hip. I had both hips just kind of cleaned up and fixed up, no replacement, but I had those taken care of and was wondering what's next. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do now? Being at that point, not even 40 yet, wondering what was next on my plate. And I met Chad Freehoff in 2005 at the Denver Broncos camp. He came out of the Colorado School of Mines. So that'll tell you right now, this kid, super smart, engineering background, was player of the year in D2. So he won the Heisman for D2. So he knew how to play the game also. And ReadyList was born out of his struggles, not only with the Broncos being, 5th quarterback in the room, and here's this 4.5, 5-inch thick playbook that he's just thrown down in front of him. Right. And he's told, learn this as fast as you can. And that's it. Just here it is, paper and watch some film and go out on the field and do your thing. And so as he went along in his career, he played on 9 different teams in damn near every league you could imagine over 7 years. And he started observing how his teammates studied and prepared for games. So he started that research process into how they learn best and how they were, whether learning on time or struggling. And that's where the ReadyList Sports idea was born, to try to create something that was more interactive digitally so that players could really test themselves or study in multiple learning styles, whether that's listening to the play call, seeing the play, interacting kinesthetically and tactile with moving players around, auditory learning where you hear the play called. I mean, he went and decided that there's a better way to do this, and that's where this whole concept was born. And since then, it's been a pretty fun, wild ride, but we have, we've done it. We got a pretty amazing product at this point.
And how many years has the business been in place now?
When he brought me his 300-slide PowerPoint presentation, and he had this idea, I thought at the time, like, it's football what I want to get involved in. And,
right.
I didn't know if this was something I wanted to dive back into, but my wife actually said, hey, this is a cool concept. You should check this out. So we took it to Adam Gase when he was with the Broncos, and Adam loved it. The ability to reach players when they're not in the building, the ability to hold them accountable, know exactly what they're learning, how fast they're learning it, where they're struggling, gave him got him real excited. And ironically, he was our first NFL team to use it a couple of years ago in the preseason when he was with Miami. So we've come a long ways. I mean, that was, it was over 4 years ago. And then we decided, hey, this is legit enough. We took it to the combine, showed a bunch more head coaches. And they said, wow, like, this is amazing. If you pull this off, I would definitely be interested. So that got us into development and forming a business and going that whole route. And, not failing, but definitely, it's our first concept, knowing we could do it better. And now, like I said, we've built something we're pretty proud of.
Well, you were probably getting pitched all the time, right? After football, after you retired, I can only imagine every time you're meeting somebody, they're trying to sell you some sort of idea or get your face on something, right? Probably.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, it all depends. If you put yourself out there, yes, there was opportunities. Some were legit, some were harebrained ideas. But, for me, this one really was something that I had no clue that it was going to be this involved, but at this point, as an athlete, a competitor, and the genetic makeup of me and Chad, we're not going to fail now. We've come far enough that we're in the fourth quarter. It's time to take this team down and drive and score a touchdown. So as quarterbacks, we won't give up. We're going to keep going, and we've made mistakes, but that's business. You learn from your mistakes, you move on, and you try to bring the right people around and the right advisors around to help you avoid those mistakes in the future.
Do you guys complement each other's skill sets pretty well? Like, what is he awesome at that you're not, and vice versa?
Well, he's really on the technical side of things. This is his brainchild, so he has his thumb on the developers and reviewing the product and working out the bugs and really knowing it in and out. So much so, I think he could go on there blindfolded and draw up a playbook at this point. Not only because it's such a simple drawing tool and really easy to use, but just because he's been so ingrained in working on this product to make it the absolute best we can possibly create. Both of us have put a lot of time into that and ideas into that, but we've also had a lot of eyeballs on it, from Hall of Fame quarterbacks all the way down to college quarterbacks, offensive coordinators, head coaches, athletes from other sports, other sides of the ball on defense. We've covered a lot of ground showing people our product just to make sure that we're not, have some harebrained idea that this is something that we hope works, but it's actually a tangible tool that can help coaches and players, really save a ton of time and make their lives a lot easier and step on the field knowing what to do.
There wasn't anything else in the market like this at all? I mean, the NFL, they weren't using anything like this when you guys first started?
No, everything is static, static images and not on paper now, but they're on iPads. So the players are using the screens to study, but there's no interaction. There's no tactile learning ups your retention rates, tremendously, triples the amount of retention rates you have. Gotcha. Rather than just looking at a static image. So when you're interacting with it, that definitely helps the player learn faster. So there are other modalities out there. And as coaches, as we found out, one hurdle we came across was coaches are creatures of habit. And they like the products they've been using for the last 20 years. They don't care if they're outdated and redundant and slow and take a ton of time just to draw one play. They just like the convenience and comfort of it. So we have to go kind of shift that pendulum and change their whole entire belief system from their past to realize there's a better tool that's going to save me tons of time, make drawing plays as easy as pencil to paper. It's simple, and allow them to expand on their playbook, and also to teach the kids not only on the field and in the classroom, but those ones that want to learn the game really well can do it on any device they have, whether they're at a bus stop, at home, waiting for their mother to pick them up after school, whatever it is. You can get on and access your playbook at any time and start, doing what coaches love, showing them that you want to learn and you want to win. And so it's been fun. It's been fun to create this. And I think a lot of people that don't know about it will soon know when the time comes.
What's been the hardest part? Has it been the technology and the development? Has that been the toughest, or has it been opening the doors and getting the meetings and actually, getting these coaches to pay attention for a 30-minute pitch? What's been harder?
It's definitely been harder on the business side of things to, come up with a really concise and accurate business plan that we can present. To really what was the biggest challenge for us was the raising the money, the capital raise.
I see.
Our first series raise was really, that was difficult because being an athlete, being the type of person that both Chad and I are, we had a tough time asking people to give us their money. That's a lot to ask, they give you their money. Now you got to perform. So we did well enough. We almost reached our goal in our Series A raise, which was really impressive, and that got us on track to start developing our product in-house from the ground up, and now adding defense to it at the end of this year, so that when we launch in 2020 with our version 2, we'll have offense and defense, and special teams is not going to be too far along right after that. So the business side of things has been really the struggle, at least for me. I don't have a business degree. Being in a meeting when people are talking in their abbreviated acronyms, like ROI and your CRMs and all these things. I'm like, excuse me, raising my hand saying, what is that again? Can you tell me what that stands for?
That's great.
So that was a learning process, but like anybody, especially athletes, we don't back down from a challenge, and we're eager to learn. And, like I said, we don't fail. I played at a high level. Played for 10 years. So, those doors are going to open for me in that regard really easily. I can get a coach on the line, but it's that business side of thing that has been a big learning curve for me for sure. And, Chad, being as brilliant as he is, he's a fast learner and has a great memory for stuff. He's really on the business side of things. That's his forte. So you kind of know my role. That's to open the door, get the coach excited about it, but Chad's on the business side handling all that.
I remember we met Chad a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I can't remember, 2 years ago or something like that. But it was obviously before the Series A round. My partner and I, Scott, we sat down with him at happy hour, and he, it was before there was cash, right? Pre-revenue, so to speak. I think you might have had 1 or 2 clients, and you guys had kind of bootstrapped it, I think, right? Just with your own money at that point, hadn't raised any cash, and boy, I remember the look on his face. He said, "Man, this is a hell of a lot harder than I thought it was going to be." And
it is, man.
I remember saying, I asked him, I think that day, I said, "So what's been harder? An entrepreneur, trying to get a business going, or football? What was tougher?" And I kind of assumed that being an NFL player would be the automatic answer as tougher, but boy, he paused on that for a little bit. He said, I don't know. He said, it's kind of close. He said,
it is. He's an honest kid, and I am too, and it is definitely the challenges there, for playing at the NFL. But what was great about that is that each week you knew whether you were successful or if you failed. And, win or loss was your determining factor, where here in business world, we don't know, the little wins, they don't show up in the win column. They're just little victories for us to propel us forward, where what's the big win for us? It's like, for us is to, our end game, whether we're becoming attractive for a buyout by a larger organization that wants to use our technology, or if we just continue to grow our customer base to the point where we're making a decent living on it. That's kind of the challenge. So yeah, football was, I think, easier because, like I just said, you knew right away you were successful, great job, or you were not. You need to go back and work on this. Where here with business, we're kind of just guessing and going and really trusting our instincts, really, to do the right thing and move this thing forward.
Well, your work ethic obviously is propelling you guys forward. And like you said, you don't back down from a challenge. I'm sure that's been a huge part of your success so far. Where's your volume at? Is it in youth? Is it in high school? Is it at the pro level or college level? Where are you seeing the fastest growth?
Yeah, high school for sure. We ended up this last season here, before the season started, fall football season, that is, we got up over 100 clients, and most of those are high schools.
Great.
There's some youth organizations individually, teams that have signed up, a couple youth organizations that provided it to their whole entire team database. We've had a couple colleges on board, and then, a pro team that really was nice to get it in and get it tested with some really young players, a young quarterback. So we were excited about that. And, our real goal is to just keep spreading the word and go to the hot spots like Texas and Florida and California and get those high schools talking about it and buzzing about it. And then, once that's done, the marketing kicks in, and I think word will spread pretty quickly, so long as our software does what we're touting that it can do. And, so far so good. We're getting good results back.
That's great. And are you growing to the point to where you're hiring people now and starting to bring on, other folks to the team besides yourself and Chad? Where's that at?
Yeah. Right now we've got another guy, Matt, that works for us, that is basically our tech guru, who, if there's anything new comes out, he spends countless hours punching buttons, making sure there's no bugs and no weird things popping up, and make sure the system's running how we expect it to after the developers, cut out a new development on our defensive side of things. And then another guy, Morgan, who's helping us run our marketing campaign to just get the word out and keep hammering, social media and getting, emails into coaches' inboxes and, run those cycles, that 7-month cycle or that 8th or 9th time a coach sees something they feel comfortable of looking into it, and trying to run all those numbers. And then, as this fall is progressing, we are in talks, all the time, kind of looking through Rolodex and finding guys that want to join up, and whether that's be salesmen in a region and work on a comp plan, or join us somehow to be a spokesman. But yeah, we are expanding. We've got to find, the ability to, like I said, get feet on the ground in a lot of really important regions and start signing up some key schools.
Interviewing for a job is stressful enough already. I can't imagine what a candidate is going to feel when they step in front of Chad Freehoff and Jake Plummer and have to interview. What, as that team grows, what kind of, character traits and personalities are you going to be looking for when you start talking to those folks that want to join your team? What, how are you going to make those decisions, and what are you going to be looking for?
Yeah, we look for some, people that obviously have a sports background. That helps. It's not necessary. As long as they've had some sales and can understand, how to attack a market and go after a potential buyer. A lot of times it really helps to have a former player, to be honest, somebody that has played the game and can understand the problem we're trying to solve firsthand. Like, that playbook assimilation is intense, and the coaches don't sit and wait for you to learn it. You got to learn it right away on that little bit of time you have before next day's practice. So that's been, where we've kind of focused, is trying to find some guys that are maybe transitioning out of the game and looking for something to get into and maybe stick close to the game. Because like you said, and like I've said, that we know their work ethic is there. And if they've been smart and gone to school and got a degree and maybe done some secondary or extra education outside of playing to get a business degree or anything like that, that always goes a long way to help us try to find those guys. So it's a daunting task to interview. We tried to expand and get a CR or a CEO or CRO come in, a chief revenue officer, and just that interview process for me was like, what do I need? What am I going to ask this person? They've been successful already, and we're like asking them to come help us be successful. So this has been a really interesting thing to be involved in. And as time goes, there are times you got to pick yourself up because it gets a little redundant at times. But we know down the road, what we have from the level of players and coaches that we've shown this to and the excitement that they've shown and just the words they've said about what we've created, that keeps us going because we know there's a need for this really at all levels of football and then hopefully other sports as we grow and expand to provide a tool for other sports to have a playbook, disbursement tool and a testing tool to help their athletes get better.
You know, I love what you said about hiring former players or former athletes. I do believe, and of course at Riderflex, we interview and place people for a living, right? So we're interviewing people every day. And I'll just tell you, I've been interviewing and hiring people since 1984, basically. And there is a difference with those folks that played Division I sports, right? Really any division in college, but those college athletes or people that, were 4-year starters in any sport, Division I, there's just always a difference. They're super aggressive. They're super competitive. They're team oriented. They can be coached and they take direction well. I mean, they just usually always, not 100% of the time, but they really transition well, I think, into the professional world for sure.
Yeah, and time management is part of being a student athlete. You have to learn when to really focus, get your work done, and then when to go out and work on your secondary, dream, which is, to be an athlete at the pro level. But you got to go out and work at that also. So, it seems like athletes definitely have a drive and a desire. It's sometimes you get them that, they may be a little lazy and not want to put in all the work, but defining their role, make sure that they know what they're stepping into is really key. As Chad and I have grown this thing, our roles have been very diverse and covering everything you could imagine. I mean, Chad wears every hat you could imagine. I wear as many as I possibly can. But as we grow and evolve, we want to hone in on what each other's roles have got to be and where we want to focus. And that'll be exciting as we expand, is to take Chad off of the sales pitch and put someone else on it so Chad can focus on making sure we're developing the next level of ReadyList Sports, whether it be football, special teams, or another sport, making sure that's coming off 100% exactly how we want it. And myself included in that is, hey, if you need me to call somebody and where my role is to be the spokesperson, that's what I like to do. Not really, balancing a budget. That's not my forte.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this: what's the Super Bowl moment been so far? To use a football term, what's the biggest moment where you and Chad, maybe I don't know, you're in a meeting or you're trying to close a deal and you go out to the parking lot, you get in the car, you're giving each other high fives. What's that huge, the largest moment so far in the business?
It's hard to say, but I think when we were able to raise the money that we raised and the people that bought in, that was really exciting just to know that there were people out there that believed in what we were doing. And it wasn't just, we weren't just, having this wish. It wasn't just some wild idea, that actually a tangible tool that people go, wow, this is amazing. And one of them that was really cool was Steve Young.
Okay.
When he saw the product, he said, are you kidding me? There's not something, how come the NFL hasn't figured this out and developed something like this already?
Right.
For us, it's like, oh, yeah, thank you, Steve, for saying that, because he proves that there's definitely a need for it at the very top, which means that if they love it and can use it, it goes all the way, without saying, all the way down to youth sports. That's where, great. You want to prepare your child to have success and enjoy themselves. Well, knowing what to do is part of that battle.
And how about the we'll call it the lowest moment so far? That moment where you're at home with your wife and you reach over and grab a beer or whatever, and you're kind of looking at her like, man, I don't know if this is going to work. What about one of those?
Probably when we first developed our concept model, and then we realized the company we'd done it with, they were good, but they fit our ideas into their box, into their, already prefabricated testing protocols. And that was kind of a low moment because we kind of got stuck there with money spent to develop something that now we had to go back to the drawing board. That was really hard because as a young business on a bootstrap, you want to spend $1 and get $1 back, right? I mean, if you can. Now we're having to go back to the drawing board and start from scratch. But then again, that's been the very best thing that ever happened to us, because now we have a product that is our ideas brought together with the right developers and presented in the way we think it should be, with all the R&D we've done and all the input we've had from numerous, Carson Plummer and Drew Stanton. I mean, you name it. I've got so many guys that we've shown this to, Kurt Warner, Mark Trestman, that, we've thrown all those things that they've said now into our product. So the low moment actually turned out to be a really good moment for us.
That's great.
But yeah, that's athletes, man. We throw an interception or we go 3 and out. What do? We get up and cheer the defense on and say, give me the ball back so I can go do something good now. So, we're going to keep fighting and pushing. And, our only worry and maybe even the best thing for us is that a competitor comes out there trying to do the same thing, because that's just validation that, hey, this is needed. So we're moving in the right direction and, willing to take our lumps, but also excited about what the future holds.
That's great. Well, I know we're getting close on our time here. Just a couple more questions. You've obviously had, you had a fantastic career in college and in the NFL, and now you're, working on your own business. I think you're in your mid-40s. I can go ahead and say your age because you're on Wikipedia anyway, right? Everybody can look it up.
Yep, 44, man. 44. George Gervin's number, yeah.
As you think back now, especially now that you have 3 young children, if you could call your 21-year-old self coming out of Arizona State, right? If you could call that young man and give him any advice, what would you tell him?
Oh, I'd probably tell him to, take a little bit of time in the off season, to educate yourself a little bit on something, whatever that may be.
Okay.
For me now, looking back, I wish it would have been, to go do some of the free offerings that the NFL has for business school, whether that's the University of Pennsylvania or the Wharton Business School, to go take, that little bit of time to just go learn the ins and outs of business. Not thinking back then that I would ever want to get into business and start my own business, but now that I'm doing it, it'd be nice to have that knowledge in my back pocket. It wouldn't necessarily have put us any further down the road, but it would have made this whole process probably a little smoother, and maybe we could have avoided a few of the, little road bumps, the speed bumps we've hit along the way. But I don't know. I think I've done pretty well to just enjoy life and see what comes my way and have an open mind on things. And then this is one of those opportunities where, when I was that young kid playing ball, I treated Chad Freehoff well when he was a rookie. I tried to help him.
Right.
Tried to help him make the team, and now he brought this idea back to me. And I think as time's gone, we're going to see we're going to see a nice profit, a nice reward at the end of this for both of us. And me, I've made money, I'm doing well, but Chad is a young guy who's trying to make a living here and hopefully get a nest egg to start his life. So if that all turns out, then I wouldn't change a thing, right? Everything's good.
Awesome. Well, you guys, I'm really happy for you. I mean, especially after meeting Chad early on, it sounds like you're making great progress. I mean, you've signed up a bunch of more clients, revenue coming in now, a Series A round of funding. I mean, you're off to the races, my friend. You've got past that initial stage. You got proof of concept. I'm happy for you guys, really. Congratulations on where you're at so far.
Yeah, thank you. There's no turning back now. I think like, okay, how long is this going to go? I don't know now. We're in it, and we're both in it to run its course to see where it takes us, and it's exciting.
That's great. Really quick before we hang up, so for everybody that's interested, right, it's ReadyListSports.com. Yeah. And if they just go to the website, I think there's sign up information. You can either send your email in or call. I mean, is that the best thing to do, is just go to the website and check the information there?
Yeah. Go to the website, check out we have a youth section, a high school section, and a pro college section to kind of look at. We're across the board, 4-on-4 flag football all the way up to the NFL. We've got the playbook tool for you. And new coaches, we've got preloaded plays, so you don't have to worry about it. You get your playbook signed up, and there's already routes, formations, plays, and coaching tips already in there. So for those new coaches that get thrown into the mix, it's not a daunting task anymore.
Which is 90% of the guys who sign up to coach youth football, right? So
exactly.
Those are all just dads that have no idea what they're doing. So they need to sign up right away.
Yes, and we've made it affordable. We've made it highly affordable. We don't want to be a burden to these parents and kids just to provide them a tool. We're looking at creative ways to get big corporations to pay for this for the whole league, so that parents don't have to worry about even the extra, $10 it might cost them for the season for their kid to have access. We want to make this accessible to everyone. That's great.
Awesome stuff, Jake. Really, hey, thanks so much for being on the Riderflex podcast. I really appreciate it, and wish you and Chad and the team the best as things move along. Okay.
Hey, Steve, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much, man. I'd love to share our story, and it's going to be exciting to see where it goes.
Sounds good, buddy. Take care. Talk soon.
Hey, have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. The Riderflex podcast can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com/podcast to learn more about us and become a supporter of the show. Send your comments and suggestions for future topics to the email address podcast@riderflex.com or leave us a voicemail at 888-964-5876 extension 710. Thanks so much for listening and have a great day.